Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Be 3 months ago, sailing across the Atlantic, solo, sitting in the cockpit, just enjoying the sound of the ocean and rocking of the boat. Very dark night, no moon. GPS says I'm about 1,000 miles out. The sky explodes in a bright light. As bright as the sun, but the sky is still black. Jump up thinking it's a flare and someone is in trouble. MRD, radar detector, going crazy. Readings in a 360-degree circle around me. Get on radio asking if anyone needs help. No response. Look over in the direction of the light and start to head that way. Still asking on the radio if anyone needs help. No response. Light is hovering in the sky. Flares don't hover. I get within 2 miles of the light and it shoots straight down into the ocean. Sky goes black again. Can see the light dropping deeper in the water. MRD stops buzzing. Light disappears. Start asking for anyone on the radio. No response. I didn't get any response on the radio for 14 days. I did get another reading on the MRD, but I never saw anything, probably a container ship. I tried to get them on the radio but they never responded. I was starting to think my radio was broken, but it worked when the Portuguese Navy asked my intentions when I entered their waters.
Be around 5 or so. Mother teaching me about being polite and shit. Hear noises at night in my room sometimes. Be scared and get afraid of the dark. Has always been like this. One night hear a loud thud and kinda something like a roar. Stormed out of the room to my mom, who was still awake. She comes with me in the room, must have been the pipes. I tell her to get rid of the noises. She calms me down, and I try to sleep again. Hear a muffled voice from the other side of my wall. Had this house some time, and behind this wall was an empty storage room. Voice tells me, please don't get rid of me. Since I was fucking innocent, I told it to be more polite. I realized years later what the fuck I have done. Scary noises become more normal. Some time later, hear knocking on my door. Say come in. I was young, so I don't know why the fuck this seemed like a good idea. The door opens a little crack, nothing else. Hear faint music. Fall asleep fast. Shit continues in my house with weird noises. Noises help me become less afraid of the dark. Help me to sleep. Not scared anymore. Be 14 when we move out. Last night I heard the same muffled voice, thanks for letting me stay through the same wall. Be scared. Move to a new house. It starts again. I have no problem with it since I know it. It's gone after several years, and my little brother reports the things. I found out at some point that my real father died when I was too young to understand it, and that what I thought was my father was just my stepfather.
Be in first grade. We have an assistant teacher to help out with this mentally challenged girl. My father would come and eat lunch with me. Everyone called my dad Stone Cold because he looked exactly like Stone Cold. One day after my dad leaves, the assistant teacher asks if he's my stepdad. Say no, he's my dad. She says no, you have a different last name than him. I had been going by my dad's last name since I began school. I was unaware of my real last name. She says he's my stepfather, not my real dad, and that we don't have the same last names, so that's strange for him to be my real dad. Go home and ask what a stepfather is. Dad flips his shit and tells me that he isn't my real dad. He didn't help make me, but he has been there since I was born and he loves me no matter what. The assistant teacher was fired and screamed at by both of my parents. Find out years later that real dad is in prison for trafficking meth.
13 years old. Kid I knew from school. Was never friends with him because he was poor and scruffy looking. Was a friend of my friend though. One day he's out playing with us, he just showed up. Had only ever seen him at school before. Never spoke to him before even though I saw him 5 days per week for 8 years. We end up playing Ouija board. He flips out after a while. Loses his shit. Throws everything around. Leaves. Find him walking around the street. Is much calmer. Doesn't see us. Hear us. But freaks out when we speak to him. Eventually he calms down a bit. But still freaking out. Says he is in a desert. Follow him around for a bit. It gets dark. Go home. I never saw him again, ever. Not once. Not even in school. I only remembered this last year.
When I was in the Army, I was in training. Drill sergeant at Fort Bragg. We were going out for 3 days. And 2 nights to work on radio procedures. Since it was the back 40, we didn't take rifles. But we had guards because 1, safety, 2, people. Going off to get drunk, 3, other units fucking with you, and 4, it's the Army, you have guards. There were plenty of people, so we had 2-hour shifts and the perimeter was broken up into 4 areas. My area was mostly along a dirt road. I would be behind a verge of brush and a ditch. And the space across the road was about 10 meters of open grass and then pine forest. I had glanced over the area in the day, but whatever. My shift was 12 to 2 at night. I grabbed some sleep and got up to relieve Bob in plenty of time. It was a night, not too chilly for September. There was almost a full moon but a lot of clouds, so the light was changey. I started walking back and forth along my area. Every now and then I would see one of the other guys from the other 2 spots, and the sergeant of the guard checked on me about 1:15 or so. Just another night of Army training. I checked my watch and saw I had 20 minutes left when something moved on the other side of the road. It was enough movement that I froze and started to look for what caused it. I could tell there was something on the other side of the road, and it might be moving, but I couldn't make it out. I wasn't scared, but I felt someone watching me and figured that it was a guy from another unit, maybe even one of our lieutenants bored and trying to test the perimeter. As the clouds got thinner, the thing I saw looked like a man standing there, staring at me the same way I was staring at him. But really, really tall and thin. I figured the light was confusing me and that since I was behind brush he couldn't tell exactly where I was. I can't really explain it now, but my instinct was to freeze and just wait to see what happened. So I stood there, looking just a little to the side to watch for movement in the dark for what seemed like a long time. Then I heard my relief, Rick, coming up behind me. I heard him realize something was up when he stopped just walking up and quietly slid up next to me. "You see that?"
Is that a fucking guy?
"Maybe, I can't tell."
Well, you go left and I'll go right and we'll see.
We crashed through the brush together and walked across the road, flanking whatever it was. A moment later the moon came out and boom. It was an old, dead tree about 9 feet tall. Some broken branches and such vaguely looked like shoulder and long arms. We walked around it, met on the other side, and laughed a little. Dude, I cannot believe I stared at a tree for half an hour.
It was creepy looking without the moon.
We went back across the road and I went to bed. Next day we were all eating breakfast when Rick started teasing me about being afraid of the tree. Scott, who was the last guard in our area, asked what we meant, so we told him the story. Scotty looked at us and said,
"There's no tree over there."
Rick and I tell him to stop fucking with us, but we all go look. There's no tree. You can even see where Rick and I crossed the dirt and walked through the grass. In the middle, though, no fucking tree. Just a little, empty, patch of grass. No damn idea.
13. Visiting grandparents in southern Illinois for summer. 3 friends 12-12-13. Just after lunch, 12:00-ish. Walking down decommissioned railroad tracks. Trees make a tunnel out of old rotted tracks. Goofing off and playing like boys. Get a good way from the house. Start hearing sounds like radio static. Ignore it, keep playing. Sound stays with us, getting neither louder or quieter. Figure it's older kids fucking with us. Keep walking. 30 minutes. Get to the railroad bridge. Spans a decent-sized gully. Sand bottom, off-roading and dirt bikes ridden there a lot. Popular teens hang out. Deserted. Static starts getting louder. One of the 12-year-olds starts crying. The rest of us get nervous. Okay guys, let's go. The following gully left leads to the main road. Start walking down the bank to hit the main road. 2 blocks away from my grandparents' house. Pitch black. Getting closer to their driveway. 3 police cars, all 3 of my friends' parents' cars. Walk down the driveway. Everyone rushes to us. Where have we been? What do you mean? It's 4:46 in the morning. We tell them. No one believes us. Grounded. Forced to go home the next day. Absolutely no idea what happened between approximately 12:30 p.m. and 4:46 a.m.
Be about 4 or 5. At Dad's house. Hanging outside with a couple of my cousins who are about 9 or 10. 2 girls who live on the street, cousins' age, come over and start talking shit that would be insulting to little kids. We're fuming. They start walking away, giggling. Cousin leans in, tells me to throw a rock at them. Well, why the fuck not? JPG. Look around, find one about the size of a baseball. Perfect. Lob it in their general direction. Got one in the head. Direct fucking hit. They run inside, screaming and crying. Look at the rock, smeared with blood. Cousins are in shock and awe. The girl's mom comes out. Cousins fucking hightail it down the street. Book it inside. Hide under the mattress that I sleep on when visiting. Dad enters the room and says to come with him. I say no. Says the mom just wants to talk. Okay then. PNG. I literally cannot remember anything after that. All I know is that I went home for about a week, and when I returned, my cousins were all there, fine as ever, and the girls stopped talking to us. I don't know why no one appeared to have been punished, and I'll be damned if I'm the one to bring it up again.
After major surgery, black hair, blue-eyed nurse, reminds me of my father before he went crazy. Have her as a nurse for about a week. Works day and night shift for some reason. Obsessed with me. Always staring through the door from the desk. Always the one to check my vitals. Always the one to deliver food from the cart. Always the one who gives me meds. Wants to help me bathe. Eventually, get tired of this crap. There's something off about her. Tell her my vitals are fine and that the machines are taking them. She says she still needs to check. Needs to make sure my heart is still beating. Tell her that's dumb. I wouldn't be alive if my heart wasn't still beating. She takes a pulse.
That's not necessarily true.
Never see her again after that night. No other nurse ever needs to take vitals while I'm there. I thought she was crazy and an idiot. It took me about 12 years or so to realize how creepy that was. Of course, in the last 2 years, we've had a few people who were given artificial heart transplants where no pulse is needed.
I had a dream that I remembered from my teenage years and has stuck with me for 5 to 6 years. I also posted this in an older thread. I wrote it down as a child and kept the note. It's too long, so this'll be 2 posts. I remember one where I was walking around in a modern street. In the corner of a plaza looking at some domed lit up colorful buildings. Then some Latino or something guy came over and asked how I was doing. I said, "You better get to the camps soon," and he said, "Sure, let's walk together." So we went walking, then I started fucking sprinting there for some reason. I jumped over a metal bar, then clinged onto it after jumping over. I held onto it really fucking tight and started having a panic attack, thinking I'd fall into this ravine-esque shopping mall, like Liverpool 1. Then I walked along the iron sheet metal path with the railings and climbed up these metal slopes you see on stadiums. Once up, I went through a door into a playground, ball pit where kids were playing. I remember that they were my classmates from high school, which was like 4 years ago, I think. They paid no notice to me and I kept on walking. I met up with the Latino guy too, who had become more recognizable and was a guy from my school. He wasn't Latino, he was Portuguese. Anywho, then we started walking around this stadium. I recognized the floor, the carpet was the same as my childhood home and it was exactly the same as Wembley's inside. I went there as a child with school. So I just started walking around for no reason and then the porco was gone. I went to a bathroom, which consisted of 4 or 5 bathroom stalls, that I could easily look over, in a small room. Lengthwise it was pretty high. I was just running from one end to the other. Then I looked in one, nothing was there, so I looked in the next. Nothing there. Then on the last day I kicked open the door and saw a blonde, almost white, frizzy-haired tall pale girl slumped on the toilet, wearing all her clothes. Her eyes were open and you could see into her mouth. Her tongue was pressed against the other side of her mouth. So I went closer and realized she was dead, and I just kept thinking that I had to do some surgery shit and fix her. Her belly was exposed under her striped red shirt, so I lifted it up a little and saw that a napkin was on her stomach. It was stuck wet from sweat, a little blood and stomach juices. So I lifted it off her, it peeled off from being moist, and there was a vertical slit, very little blood, mostly covered in watery stuff. Then I realized she was this girl from high school, total 10 out of 10, so I kinda jumped back. I started to panic and put the napkin back thinking it would help, then I left and walked about the stadium for a while. I think I looked down some stairs and saw some children playing on them until I woke up.
Be 11 or so. Coming back from school. Living in a shit neighborhood near the harbor. Got out of the bus and walked the rest of the way on foot. Suddenly a van pulls up, looks pretty old and has no windows besides the front ones. Inside is a about 50-year-old cat lady looking bitch. She opens up the door and tells me I look tired and that she can give me a lift home. The seats and the interior of the van I can see are covered in blankets and some other shit. Right now I'm like 2 streets from my house. There is absolutely no one around, no residential buildings around either. After like 15 seconds of just staring at each other and absolutely terrified, I answer no. Quickly run to my house, lock every lock and call my mum. By far the creepiest thing that has happened to me. I still remember it quite well and I'm pretty positive if I had gone in she wouldn't have given me no lifts.
With friend at skate park, both 10. Messing around on rollerblades. Guy drives up near and gets out. Says he locked himself out of his house and asks if one of us could climb through a window and open the door for him. Live in a small town. Never any serious crime, so think nothing of it. Says he will give us £5 for doing it. Tells us to follow him to the house. Get to the house after a few minutes. Window is one of those long and small ones that opens up. Friend is too much of a pussy, so I do it for dat fiver. Tight fit, but I eventually squeeze through. I'm now standing in a complete stranger's house. Guy tells me the key might still be in the lock. Tell him it's not there. Tells me to check on the table. Find it and open the door. He walks in and gives me £5. Me and my friend go off to the arcade to spend our fortune. To this day I always wonder if I helped some guy break into a house.
Several years ago, I was having dinner with a friend. We paid and were on our way out the door just as a man came running in with a wild look saying,
"Call an ambulance, someone got hit by a car."
My friend and I spring into action because we were both military EMT types. As we arrive at the scene, we quickly realize there is nothing we can do. The man had been riding a bike and it was crumpled on the other side of the street. There was a long streak of blood running from the SUV that hit him on his head. Its head was busted open. He had the Kuzmol breathing going, death rattle. The worst part was that he was lying on his back but his ass was facing up where his crotch should have been. He was twisted around at the waist. He was a goner and we knew it. I knelt down by him and said, "I'm gonna be honest with you, sir, this doesn't look good but I'm here with you." I got no response. I just knelt there with him waiting for an ambulance. After about a minute, his one open eye looked towards me and he said in a weak voice,
"He's looking for you, not me."
I didn't think much of it and tried to comfort him. Surprisingly, he was still alive when the ambulance came but died minutes later. It was only later when my buddy confirmed what the man said that it was creepy. My friend was spooked and won't talk about it. I got goosebumps just writing this.
Typing on the phone, so this might be messy. About 10 years old. Move into a new house. Brother and I just chilling outside while watching our parents unpack shit. Boy from down the street walks up. His name is Brent. Invites us to hang out, so we follow him. Takes us to the empty lot next to our house. Has a secret hole underneath this bush. All kinds of stuff inside, mostly dangerous stuff like lighters, knives, a hatchet, etc. Play around with stuff like dumb kids. About a month later, Mom calls us outside. Takes us over to a secret bush hole where Brent and his mom are waiting for us. Gets screamed at by Brent's mom.
"This stuff could kill you. Blah blah."
Get back home. Mom says we can't hang out with Brent anymore. Cut all contact with him. Soon, he no longer comes to school. Find out he had problems with other kids too. Hear that he was found torturing and killing small animals. His mom tried to blame other kids for making him do it. Yeah, right. JPEG. Couple years later find out that his mom went crazy and he was sent to a private Christian school.
I'll share my dream I had as a child. It's not a real experience per se, but I still dreamt it and it was creepy as fuck now that I look back on it. Be young, between 5 and 8. Summer, no school. Parents are Christian, but not very serious. Don't give a shit about denomination. I don't even think they've fully read the Bible. I don't even understand religion at this point in my life. Just know of some guys named Jesus and God. The dream. It starts with me in my bed. I walk out onto the front yard. It's a total war zone. 2 armies have sandbags and everything set up. Choppers dropping down guys. People zerg rushing and dying by my feet. I just stand there for a minute. Memory's a bit blurry, but I think I ran away. Either way I ended up in town by a gas station. I'm in town, it's like 3 a.m., pretty normal. Go eat IHOP or something, I just remember eating Eagles. Meet up with my best friend and chit-chat, walking back to the gas station. Friend says he has to go. Disappears. A rocket, like a cartoon-style rocket almost, it's almost like a house, lands right in front of the actual gas pumps. An omniscient voice tells me to get in, politely. I do as told. Why not? We take off. I can see the ground below, earth below, all that. It's almost like I'm dual screening now. It's like I am the rocket in first person, but I'm also sitting at a table inside. I said it was like a house with this guy. Guy isn't actually there, completely invisible, but you just know he's there. We have a conversation. I don't remember anything specifically about the conversation. I might have even been told not to mention details. Conversation lasts like a good 15 minutes. Finally arrived at my house. We land, the door opens. Guy says something. I don't know how to exactly say this, but he didn't say, "I am God," or anything to that extent, but something more like how a quote would end, "God." Nothing really seemed to be said, but you could just tell it was said, just like how you knew the guy was there. The rocket door opens. I step outside, turn around and wave goodbye to the rocket as it leaves. Turn towards the house. House of all cartoony like rockets. Barely even resembles my house at the time, but I could obviously tell it was. Enter in through the front door, greeted by family in the kitchen to my immediate right. Mom cooked waffles. We all go to sit down and eat, no questions asked. Awakening. I woke up to this part. Look up at the bunk bed above mine. No one in it, I just had 2 beds. Stare up at the ceiling for what felt like a few minutes. Thinking of what just happened. I'm little, so I'm not a philosophical dickhead like I am now. Have no idea what the fuck just happened. Don't question it, don't try to explain it, just continue on. My bedroom door is open. I hear Mom call me in for breakfast. We had waffles that morning, the best waffles I'd ever had. That's my story, X. Whether you believe it or not, this is what I remember. I have no real idea what happened during my conversation with the guy, but now as I think of it and try to remember, I get the same exact feeling I had then. I don't know, but I know. It's been 10+ years since I had this dream. I'm now an agnostic, but have a strange affiliation with a feeling of God. Thinking of this conversation gives me a feeling of absolutism, like everything will happen, and everything will work out.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.